street of sorrow, the boulevard of broken dreams, where gigolo and gigolette can take a kiss without regret and forget their broken dreams. You laugh today and cry tomorrow when you behold your shattered schemes. And gigolo and gigolette wake up to find their eyes are wet with tears that tell of broken dreams. Here is where you'll always find me, always walking up and down. But I left my soul behind me in an old cathedral town. The joy that you find here you borrow, you cannot keep it long it seems. But gigolo and gigolette still sing a song and dance along the boulevard of broken dreams.
Hello, welcome to 30 Minutes. I'm Rick Anthony. I've always thrilled at the magnificence of a really good, high-quality tenor reaching for a high C with power and clarity. As a teenager, my idol was Mario Lanza. There was none better. And I still believe he was probably the best, one of the best voices, certainly of the 20th century. Although I get arguments from devotees of good quality singing, both opera and popular songs, certainly Pavarotti, Domingo, Carreras, other names like that, who helped to popularize opera and to bring the tenor voice, particularly, to the public stage. Pavarotti was an exquisite technician. Domingo sings from the heart, but nobody sang from the heart like Mario Lanza, at least not in my opinion. My guest today is an established lyric operatic tenor. His name is Richard Troxell. He lives in Coatesville, is married with a couple of kids, but chose some time ago to devote his life to music, and particularly the opera. But like some of the other great tenors, and I'm sure he aspires to become a great tenor, he too has helped to make the transition from the opera to popular music and has a new CD called So in Love. And he's here today to talk with us about that and his career. Welcome, Richard, to 30 Minutes.
Great pleasure.
To have you here. While we come into this interview, in the background we have a cut from your CD, So in Love, Boulevard of Broken Dreams. I've listened to some of the cuts. It's all good music, and you certainly picked some great standards, and I appreciate that. As an old guy, I really appreciate it, because I understand the lyrics. I understand what you're saying.
Right, that's why I love doing it.
I was introduced to you by Dan Pantano, our good friend, irrepressible member of the staff down at the Academy of Vocal Arts, AVA, who was really quite profusive in his praise of you and your voice, and suggested that we get together. He knows I love opera, and I particularly love really good tenors. Tell us first, what is the Academy of Vocal Arts, and why is it so special in the music world?
Well, the Academy of Vocal Arts is the premier, to me, school for opera training. Mm-hmm. So it's usually it's a postgraduate school. Mm-hmm. And you go there, you audition, and if you get in, you're one of, there are about 25 students there from all over the world. Yeah. You can only go there on a scholarship. You can't pay to go there. And once you get accepted, then you study opera for 4 years with, mm-hmm. to me, the top coaches and top teachers mm-hmm. in the opera business. And you really dig deeply into what opera is about. So that's language training, that's musical training, a lot of intense training. Some people call it opera boot camp. Mm-hmm. I found it to be just the best education I could have gotten. Mm-hmm. And that's why I'm going to go back there for my CD release on December 7th, because I just love that. I love that school and everything it's about. Yeah. Is the Academy of Vocal Arts is like, it's like a family to me.
Just to be accepted is high honor.
It is.
The competition is quite
Indeed.
keen.
Very much so.
Yeah. When did you graduate?
I graduated in 1992. Mm-hmm. So it's been a while ago.
It's been a while ago. But most of
I started there when I was 7.
Precocious is right. Most of the graduates do go on to build careers in opera.
Yes, they do. And they are putting out more and more great singers right now. Mm-hmm. If you've heard of the Richard Tucker Foundation, yes. The competition in the past 5 years has been, I think except for one, all AVA graduates. I mean, they're just taking over the opera world in a really wonderful way.
No, it's great. I was introduced to them a few years ago, and we've had a few galas here in the main line to help fund some of those scholarships.
Yes, you have.
And that's how I got to know Dan. You've sung leading roles in some of the most popular and best-known operas. You've had the good fortune, I suppose, of singing the lead roles. And among them, and I'm probably going to mess up some of these, you sang in Frederick Mitterrand's 1995 film version of Madame Butterfly.
Yeah.
Some of the artists in that are absolutely mind-blowing. Don Jose and Carmen, you sang that at the Sydney Opera House. You've sung in Italy. You've sung in pretty much coast to coast in the U.S. as well as Europe and in Asia.
I've sung in 6 continents.
Is that right?
And I've had the opportunity last year possibly to sing in the 7th, which would have been Antarctica, on a ship that was going there, but it didn't work out. But yes, I've sung literally all over the world.
How do you get those roles?
Well, have an agent. Piper Anselmi are my agents in New York, and they're wonderful. And we worked collaboratively to, you know, they present me for a role. So let's say Sydney Opera House. They need a Don José, and they contact my agents and say, you know, who are your Don Josés? And they say, Richard's my Don José. Some of them have been because someone got sick, which is great.
It's great?
It is great for me. Not that I get sick, because I'm always jumping in. So I've done that various times because that's my personality. I can jump right in. So last year, Montreal was doing Manon, and their tenor wasn't able to go up. I flew up the next day, had about 3 hours of rehearsal, and went on and did the opening night. And I've done that. I did that in Sydney. It was the same thing. José got very sick. They flew me down to Australia. I jumped off the plane, rehearsed, and within, I think, 3 days, I was on stage.
I introduced you as a lyric tenor. What is a lyric tenor as opposed to other types of tenors?
So in the opera vocal world, they categorize each voice. And so the biggest tenor would be the Helden tenor. That's the Wagner huge sound, usually a darker sound, more baritonal, but has those high notes that are powerful. Then you have a spinto, which means heavier, and that's more of a tello, bigger orchestra that you have to sing with, so it's a bigger sound also. Then you have dramatic, then you have a lyric tenor, which is basically what everybody knows of. They sing the Rodolfos, the Alfredo and Traviata, Pinkertons. Don José borders on dramatic, but it's still lyric. So it's sort of what Pavarotti was, and Placido and those guys. And then you have a light lyric, and then you can go into lyric coloratura, which means they sing the Rossini, all that kind of things.
How do you match up a certain tenor to a certain soprano, for example?
So the operas were written like if when you sing La Bohème, those are mostly lyric roles. So the lyric soprano sings with the lyric tenor in that role. So if you get into bigger roles like Otello, then you have a more dramatic soprano, but it's still a lyric soprano with a dramatic tenor. And a lot of it has to do with the weight of the voice, the heaviness of the sound in the middle range, too, not necessarily the high notes.
Speaking of weight...
That's always a good question at opera.
Yeah, I think for the longest time, the public perception was most of the great tenors were large men. Big chest cavities, therefore presumably big lungs, big air capacity to push out those notes, particularly the high ones, and hold on to them.
Right.
Obviously, there's not necessarily a correlation between physical size
I sometimes think that
and voice.
I think that what it made for a good, a really big person singing makes for a really good, what we call it, like a model of what you think it is. But
well, Pavarotti, Caruso.
but Caruso wasn't a tall guy. He was a round guy. You know, Placido was never huge. He's not.
Not huge, but he's not a small man.
Right, but Mario Domenico was a small man, 5'7", and could
Carreras is certainly a small
bigger than anyone.
Yeah.
So it's more, the power is in your breath control and how much breath you have, and then whatever you got here in your throat.
And that's a gift. You're born with.
You're born with that. You can train it, but you're born with it. I mean, it's like any great athlete is born with a certain thing. So I think there was a certain, when you were really heavy, there is a certain amount of being grounded when you're heavy.
Yes.
That you feel this big support under you.
Yes.
It's not necessarily true, though. I mean,
Mm.
Kathleen Battle is a small little lady who could
Yes.
just definitely do her
With
thing.
a gorgeous voice.
Right.
Yeah.
So I think also opera singers, we love to eat. And here's why we love to eat is because we love when our voices feel comfort.
Yes. Yes.
And when you eat, your throat feels comfortable. It's kind of an odd theory, but that is my own theory.
I've heard when I've had some conversations with opera singers, not just opera singers, but professional singers generally, but particularly opera singers in a long opera, that it's analogous to being a really well-trained athlete. You need the stamina.
Absolutely.
You need the energy, and obviously you have to train so that it is almost instinctive. What you do is instinctive.
It is.
Yeah, so explain that.
Well, what
process.
happens
How
is-
long does it take, for example, to learn an opera?
Well, let's say, for instance, I do Don José a lot, and that's in Carmen. And Carmen is a very physical opera. I mean, not to be a spoiler alert, but at the end, it doesn't end well. There are stabbings and all kinds of fighting. So to get out there and do that in an evening, you have to be physically ready to do all of that. That means getting thrown around on the stage, being arrested. When you get arrested, you get thrown on the stage. You get into a fight with the Escamillo. You get into a fight with Carmen. So there's a lot of physical activity going on. And at the same time, you have to be grounded and centered enough wherever you are on the stage to know that your body has to be ready to breathe deeply and sing those big phrases. To do all that, to be second nature, you have to train just so that you know when you hit the ground or you're lying upside down that you're not singing incorrectly.
Right.
And you just instinctively will sing correctly, which is why we train so long.
Talk about breath control, because I used to sing, not in your caliber, but I used to sing. But I was never able to master breath control.
Well, I think there are obviously many schools on breath control.
There are? I'm glad to hear that.
There are. I subscribe to we breathe every day, naturally.
Yes.
We don't think about how to do it.
But most of us breathe badly every day. We
Well-
don't take in enough oxygen.
Well, but we don't fall over because we didn't breathe right. So
Well,
we're
it depends
breathing.
on your age.
Well, there are people. But your physiological being naturally knows how to breathe. There's a vacuum created, the lungs open up, air comes in. So the way I think of breathing, because I was a French horn player, so I've been practicing breathing for a long time. You just have to take in a lot of breath, but it's how you take that breath in, and then how you use it, and then how you release it for the next phrase. So you just it'll just naturally come in, and you expand everything, which is the hard part for
So
some
you
people.
do breathe
deeply.
down.
I mean, there's no question. Our lungs are the only place the breath goes.
Yeah.
But your body, you want to have a sense of filling everything. And then you go and you put all of that out, using it.
But a soprano told me it's really, you breathe, but you can feel it back.
You'll
you
feel it
should
in your
feel it back here.
because your lungs are in your back. But you can definitely you feel it. But I don't just feel it in my back. I try to feel it everywhere. Now, when I was playing French horn, it was a little more chest breathing, which was not good because then you get all tight up here. So it's more of a sense of fulfillment is what I think of. Like I'm full of breath. It's the same when you swim too. If you just gasp in and swim, you can't swim long. If you just let it come in, you can go for a very long time.
Yeah. So relax and just
Relax, let it come
deep.
in, fill your lungs, and then it's a matter of how you put it out.
My son loves Sinatra. He thinks he's Sinatra. He sings with the band on weekends for fun. Anyway, he told me one time that Sinatra told him, and he met Sinatra several times, that Sinatra told him it's all in the breathing, one.
Absolutely.
And that somehow you learn to take in air even while you have a phrase, you're singing a phrase.
There is a thing, I mean, like oboe players and other people can do this thing called, that's circular breathing, while you're singing out, but singers don't really.
No.
You can't really exhale and inhale at the same time.
Sinatra did it. He said he did it.
He said he did it.
Sinatra said it.
It's physically impossible. The only way circular breathing works for brass players is you actually hold the breath in your mouth.
Yeah.
While you're blowing that out that was in your mouth, you're sucking in air through your nose. But maybe he had a concept of
Maybe, yeah,
man.
yeah. Who is your idol, operatic idol?
You know, I did start. Lanza was the reason I got started. I heard records of Lanza, and I was overwhelmed with the beauty
Yeah.
of the voice and how he did that. So my goal was, that's the ultimate way to sing, I thought. That is singing without any assistance. There's
Yeah.
no microphone, there's nothing. That's all natural. And it's very risky, because if you mess up, you mess up.
Yes.
And when I heard Lanza do that, I'm like, I would play around, sing along with Guardian Angels Around
Yeah.
My Bed and all those. And then when Luciano Pavarotti, without question, his technique and his beauty of his voice is
Yes.
amazing. But then I'm what I call myself an audio necrophile, because I only listen to old dead singers. So one of my favorite, there are many favorites, but Björling, Gili, Tagliavini, Schipa, these are guys from an era of singing that were amazing. And Corelli,
Yes.
Franco Corelli.
Franco Corelli.
It's just
And Giuseppe
Di Stefano.
Di Stefano, yes.
Yeah. And they all have their thing. It's like saying, who's your favorite athlete? I mean, there's so many. These guys all brought something to it that was
But
exceptional.
when Di Stefano would sing those Neapolitan,
Oh, my gosh.
oh,
yeah.
just
Right.
great listening.
Right, like you said, like
Beautiful.
see Di Stefano, Neapolitan,
Yeah,
Pavarotti, Donizetti,
Yes.
or Bellini.
yeah.
his-
And then there's Domingo, who started as a baritone,
yeah,
and then
Placido is just he's
trained himself
everything.
to be a tenor.
He did.
And his range is
And
phenomenal.
the recordings of Placido, I mean, it's just endless.
Yes.
And he's recorded everything.
Yes.
And he's the nicest man. I mean, he's just
Yeah.
worked with him a couple times at the Kennedy Center, and he's just a spirit that just loves what he does.
He's not singing as much now. He's conducting, right?
He conducts, but he also is moving into singing baritone roles.
Is he?
Yes.
No.
Yeah, he never stops.
No.
He is definitely someone I aspire.
Yeah, and he never had your point. He never had a dark side. He always seemed to be happy.
Always, he loves what he does.
Yeah. Whereas with Pavarotti, there was the dark side.
Well, yeah,
That
I
was
think,
part of the persona.
you know, and it's part of. It's a really difficult job. It's a really difficult
Yeah.
job because
Yeah.
if you are Luciano Pavarotti and you go in and you sing Daughter of the Regiment, you sing 9 high Cs and they're perfect and the audience goes crazy. What are you going to do at the next performance?
Yeah.
And so that's hard. People want perfection every time.
But the general public is not so much interested in the full opera. It's the
No.
aria that
Right.
it's Pavarotti when he sings Nessun Dorma.
Nessun dormo che geli da manina. They
Yeah.
want to hear the high C.
Oh,
I mean,
oh,
they want to see. It's kind of weird. They want to see the wreck at the NASCAR. They want to see the high C,
Yes.
and they want to see the triple Lutz in skating. They want to see the trick.
Yes, yes.
There's no question.
There's a song, and I don't remember the name. I'm certainly not an aficionado, but there's a song. It's all in the high ranges, and I heard an AVA student sing it. As a matter of fact, oh, I can't think of it.
It's not Daughter of the. I mean, the Daughter of the Regiment has an aria with 9 high Cs in it.
And maybe that's it.
Could be. I don't
And
know.
it's one after the other. It's like,
Yeah,
yeah. That's it.
that's
That's it. Yeah, that's
from
great.
Fille Regiment.
And you sit in absolute awe. How is he doing that?
Right. And that
Just-
sort of is a
just
trick
to
aria. I
breathe
mean,
it.
it's not easy to do, but
Yeah.
it's one of those. I mean, there are other arias that are so much harder to sing the whole aria. That one's hard to do.
Yeah.
If you can do that trick.
Let's turn the page, because
Sure.
you were still on a trajectory for your operatic career. You're going to be at the Met sometime
I am going
soon.
to start my first employee at the Met
That's
in
terrific.
3 weeks.
That's
Yes.
got to be a big thrill.
It is.
Just
It
to
is
be
very
on that
much.
stage. Just
It
to
is.
be on that stage. Well, let's talk about the album, the new CD rather. I'm old. Album.
That's right. We still
CD.
call it album.
Yeah. Richard Troxell, So in Love.
So in love.
Why?
Why is it called that?
No. Why did you
Why did I do
make
the
the
album?
transition?
Well, I started out, I was a theater major first. So this is music that's been in my home and part of my life since I was young. And I've always loved it. I still sing pops concerts. I've always liked this kind of music. I find it to be some of the most, it's the most beautiful music with some of the greatest lyrics. And because I sing opera, it's always in another language. It's fun
Yeah.
to sing in English. And it just speaks to me. And it's something I've always wanted to do.
Is this your first CD of
This is
popular music?
my first CD. Well, I did a Pops CD called What a Wonderful World with the Ocean City Pops about 15 years ago, which sold out. So this is my first endeavor on my own.
And how did you select each of the songs? I Love Paris, Old Devil Moon, So in Love, obviously Boulevard of Broken Dreams, which we heard cut from. I've Got Rhythm. I mean, it's quite a mix.
Yeah,
Of jazz
and one of my
ballads.
favorite songs on this album is "If I Only Had a Brain" from The Wizard of Oz. But we turned it into a love song, and that was John Conahan's doing. John's a great arranger, a great guy, and we. I just wanted to take songs, and I really like lyrics of songs.
Yes.
And we just turned that into a love song, as we did "I Do Anything" from Oliver. We turned that into a love song too. But they're just songs that speak to me. I mean, I think that's it. And I've sung them with Pops orchestras, you know, and that's what I like.
Is that your
That is
VW
indeed
boat?
my Volkswagen.
It is?
Yes.
You still have one, huh?
Yes.
What vintage is that?
That's a 1971 Super
Yeah?
Beetle. But the idea was that we take music of this era, which still is beautiful,
Yeah.
and still speaks to, and still incredibly romantic and
It's timeless.
passionate.
It's just timeless.
And my nephews, my sister-in-law was playing this, and her sons, my nephews, listen to this. Now they are 5th grade and 8th grade.
Yes.
And they said, "Who's singing that?" I said, "Well, that's Richard." "Well, I like this a lot. They love the music. And it is. It's that kind of music that you go, this is pretty great.
Yeah.
And the trio I used, it's a jazz trio. Tom Lawton, Dan Monahan, and Lee Smith. It was so much fun for me.
Where did you produce it?
We recorded at Morning Star Studios, which is Glen Barrett, up just north of Philadelphia, just in outside of Plymouth Meeting.
And how is it being distributed?
And we distribute it on CD Baby, which is the easiest way to get it, or iTunes or Amazon. Amazon charges more, so I would go to CD Baby or iTunes.
Good for you.
Yes.
Okay. Do you have an official launch?
So yeah, the official launch for this is going to be December 7th at the Academy of Vocal Arts, which is on 1920 Spruce Street. At 2 o'clock, it's a Sunday afternoon. We're going to have a big concert there and a reception afterwards, and there'll be lots of CDs there.
So the Academy of Vocal Arts, 1920 Spruce Street in Philadelphia. Doors open at 1:30. And if anyone is interested, how do they?
Well,
need
you
a
could
ticket.
call. You could call. Tickets are just at the door. We're just doing tickets at the door.
All right.
But if you call AVA, they know about it too. That's the other great thing about AVA. I mean, they don't. Once you're in for life there.
It says Richard Troxell of international opera and film fame. I know you did the opera.
So the film I've done is
Madame Butterfly.
the Madame Butterfly movie, which was a Sony picture release that Martin Scorsese presented.
Oh, is that right? When was
Right,
that?
and I was Pinkerton in that movie.
When was that?
That came out in 1996. And that was Frederick Mitterrand directed it.
Yeah.
Scorsese presented it. It won 2 Césars in France, which is the equivalent of our Academy Awards.
Marvelous. Congratulations. That's great.
And that was, it was a big deal. And
Yeah.
it was such a great thing to do. We filmed it in Tunisia, Africa. We recorded in Paris.
Wow.
And
You said earlier, I don't remember if it was off camera, that you've accomplished just about everything you had set out to accomplish. Certainly the Met has to be
right.
In the opera field. So what else is there? You're still a young man. Your voice is still developing, right?
It is.
It gets better with age if you take care of it. So what's next? What's the pinnacle for you?
Well, I'm not sure I ever think there is a pinnacle. And that's probably why I've enjoyed this career for a good time. You know, I remember when I just got out of college, everybody, what was your aspiration? Everybody said, I want to sing at the Met. I want to sing at La Scala. My teacher asked me, and I said, I want to be able to sing when I'm 60. I just want to keep singing because I really enjoy it. And so I just keep doing things like this CD was not something I may have thought of, but I'm like, I'm going to produce a CD. And I leave in 2 weeks to go to Prague, Czechoslovakia, to produce another CD. And this one will be all great American musical theater things with full orchestra, like a big production, orchestral things of the standards like On the Street Where You Live and If Ever I Would Leave You. And yeah, things that to me, no one is really singing with a legitimate, full legitimate voice like they were written for.
Yeah.
Because everything is produced now. Microphones and amplification. And when those guys sang on stage a long time, when they were written, there was no microphone on.
Who is I asked you who your favorite opera tenor is. Who's your favorite popular singer? Living or dead?
I'm a big Tony Bennett fan.
Yeah.
And because he's a tenor too. So I would say Tony Bennett in that genre. Yeah.
You know who Frank Sinatra said was the best?
Who do you say, Perry Como? No.
No, Vic Damone.
Vic Damone.
Vic Damone's voice is
it is
purity, absolute purity. And the person I would put next to him, and male singers, was John Gary.
Oh, wow.
What a range. Are you familiar with
I
John?
am not familiar with
You
John
must listen to
Sure.
John Gary. He was in the Vienna Boys Choir, so
Okay.
that's where he learned. But his range was baritone to way up there.
Oh, wow.
And pure, just a beautiful, pure voice.
No, I definitely.
I heard him in person one time downtown
Here in Philly.
in Philadelphia. Yeah.
Yeah, I love finding new. Like I just found a new opera singer. His name was Andre Dakar. He's a Belgian tenor. Found him about 5 years ago. Oh my gosh, he's like my favorite tenor now. And I love finding. There's always.
Yeah. I'm surprised you never heard of John
Well, the most
Gary.
popular always isn't the best either.
That's true.
You
You're
know?
absolutely right. Yeah. I mean, Sinatra was really good,
Oh,
but he was a saloon singer. It was more technique than
Different, yeah.
the voice.
Right.
Because there's so many others who had better voices. Como, you mentioned Como. I just heard Como. You don't hear too much Perry Como anymore on the radio.
No, I mean you hear all this stuff at Christmas.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
when you hear it.
Right. That's when he comes
Christmas,
back
it
out.
all starts to
Yeah,
come out,
yeah.
and people go, "Wow, that's a good."
But
voice.
again, what a great voice.
I mean,
he
Bing
had.
Crosby. Come on.
Oh yeah, yeah.
That's.
Although, as he got older, he should have hung it up. He just didn't have it anymore.
It's funny.
Sinatra was able to pull it off.
As a singer and a performer, people always say you should hang it up. It is really hard to
I'm
do
sure it
because
is.
it is in your heart, it's in your soul, and so the quality goes down a little bit, but your spirit is still the same. People said that about Luciano Pavarotti. They're always saying that.
I still wonder, I'm amazed, what accounts for Tony Bennett's popularity over 3 generations.
He's got great vocal technique, and his
Yeah.
voice still stays appealing. And every time I see a CD cover with him on, he just makes me smile.
Yeah.
I mean, he seems like he too, like Placido, just enjoys it.
There's another one who comes out at Christmas season as well, Johnny Mathis. Again, talk about a smooth voice.
Right.
Mel Torme, the Velvet.
Right,
Velvet
right.
voice. It's just wonderful voices. We don't have that today. We don't have really good voices.
Not as much, and that's part of the reason I came out with the CD is because I believe in really wonderful voices.
Yeah.
Not to saying, that's not saying I have the greatest voice in the world, but it's the voice is the last. It's like the last instrument that's not being messed with
Yes.
or altered, especially the operatic voice. Everything on Broadway now is hugely processed and produced and amplified. But when you go to the opera, it's just that person and their voice. I say, for me, it's just a man and his voice. That's it. That's what I wanted.
How does a professional singer take care of the voice? Because it is your asset.
Lots of water.
Really?
Lots of water.
Huh.
Yeah.
Just to get the toxins out?
Just all of that. Your voice is. Think of an oboe reed. And if you know anything about classical music,
No.
you'll see an oboe player. They're taking that reed and they're always keeping it wet and keeping it. Wet. I mean, our voice is pretty simple. It's 2 little pieces of cartilage in there vibrating together, and air blows over them like a reed. If that reed dries out, if the things around the reed don't work right, it's the same sort of principle in my head. Stay healthy, stay fit, and then your voice will last a long time.
You dedicated this to your mom and dad and to Sandy.
I did.
And?
My mom and dad, my mother was a great singer. She's still living. She's a great singer. She doesn't sing now. But probably the best singer I ever saw. She would just reach in, grab your heart, sing to it, and then stuff it back in your chest. Just such a real performer. I mean, what a great person. My father, who has passed away, a fantastic supporter of me. My dad was a truck driver, grew up in a rural community in Maryland, and loved what I did. Very supportive. I mean, I don't have any of that story that people have. Oh, it was a rough time.
Yeah.
It wasn't. It was great. My mom's the Italian side. My dad was just, you know, a farm guy from
Yeah.
Maryland. And then Sandy is a dear friend from undergraduate who financed the whole project.
Really?
Very kind.
That is a good friend.
She's she's a great friend before she did that.
Mm-hmm.
And then, of course, my wife is the biggest supporter.
And her
All
name,
that I do is Lisa.
Lisa, yeah, at the end. To
She-
Lisa, who makes it all possible.
She makes it all possible.
Yeah. Well, I wish you great success with this. You've done it for all the right reasons, to bring really good music and to
That's my
preserve
intent.
really good music to another generation that could certainly use some good music. Thank you very much for being
It's a
here.
great pleasure, Rick.
Best of luck.
Thanks so much.
Until next time, this is 30 Minutes. I am Rick Anthony. Pick up Richard Troxell, So in Love, at, what's the best place to get it?
CD Baby or iTunes?
CD Baby or iTunes. Until next time, take very good care of yourselves.
Strange, dear, but true, dear.